Hey, this is Leo for Actualized.org. And in this video, we're going to talk about how to stop being lazy. Let's do some lazy troubleshooting. I want to help you to get out of your rut, your funk, or whatever else is going on in your life. So let's troubleshoot this issue. And this is an issue that's close to me because, I get lazy sometimes. In fact, today was one of my most lazy days in a while. I've been working real hard on my business stuff, and today was just one of those days where I didn't really have that much to do, but I was supposed to shoot a couple of videos, which is what I'm doing now, but it was really hard for me to get mobilized. The whole day I was kind of putting it off and procrastinating and just saying like, oh, no, I don't want to. I feel sleepy, I feel tired. I didn't have a good meal, so now I'm kind of sluggish. And it's like, oh, do I really have to get up there and prepare myself and get all pretty and everything and get ready to talk about this kind of stuff? Like, oh, I don't want to deal with all that stuff. So, and I was like writing little outlines for what I'm going to say, but then like I just wasn't feeling it. I wasn't in the mood. And I was feeling I was really being lazy. But here I am. I'm standing in front of you, and I'll tell you how I got up here at the end of the video. But right now, first of all, to frame this problem, let's just be very clear and ask you, what kind of lazy are we talking about here? Because there's different kinds of lazy. One kind of lazy is that you lost your job, and now you've been unemployed for 12 months, and you've just been lying around on the couch at your parents' house in their basement, and you haven't even been looking for a job, and you're just so lazy you're sitting there watching reruns of old TV shows for 12-hour straight, eating noodles out of a styrofoam cup. Right? Now, that's one kind of lazy, and that's the kind of like really problematic lazy. Then there's another kind of lazy, which is actually one that I get coaching clients coming to me for, and that's this kind. I get a successful person coming to me. This person is already earning 6 figures, but this person is now feeling, I'm not so motivated anymore. I want to go out there and go for that promotion, but I'm just kind of like losing my drive. Or, I want to earn an extra $1 million in my business, but I've already got a couple million. How do I motivate myself to earn that extra million? Like this kind of lazy. Or maybe, you work really hard and you're working on projects all the time, and now you're in this kind of a rut between projects. You're feeling like, I don't want to do anything. I don't want to start the next project. That's a very different kind of lazy. I mean, that's kind of an overachiever's lazy. That's what I'm calling that one. It's if you're an overachiever type, you're a workaholic type, you think that everything, unless you're working your ass off at a breakneck pace, then everything is lazy. So that's a very different type of problem. And then, of course, you've got other kinds of lazy, like maybe you're too lazy to go and study for school or college. Maybe there's an exam coming up, a certification you're not studying for, that kind of lazy. I've been there. Or maybe you're too lazy to go to the gym. You don't want to get your ass up to get there and do the workout that you set out for yourself, or whatever other kind of thing that you're stalling on. But basically, if you keep having this recurring problem in your life of being lazy, that's what I want to cover here in this video. That, and then at the end of the video, I also want to talk about how to specifically get yourself out of a lazy funk, like right now, right this second. Because I think that there's a difference between long-term laziness and short-term laziness. What I had today was a short-term laziness. It's not that I lost my motivation to shoot more videos. No, that didn't happen at all. It was just that today I wanted to slack off. So I'll help you with that at the end too. But let's talk about for a second this longer-term laziness, which I actually see as a much bigger problem. Because I don't have a problem with long-term laziness. That's because I worked hard at it. It wasn't always like that. I worked hard on my life purpose. My life has purpose. That's why it's very hard for me to be lazy on the long term. I'm never really afraid of that. I can have short-term laziness though, because like anyone, I just kind of want to slack off during a certain part of the week or whatever. Especially if I'm working real hard prior to that. So the real question I gotta ask you is what's the problem with being lazy? Why not? I don't mean for me, I mean for you. Because for me, there's a really big problem with being lazy. I mean, I got an important life to live. So when I'm lazy, I'm losing time. I'm losing time. My life purpose is not getting accomplished. What about you, though? Do you have a life purpose? What's not being accomplished when you're lazy? Why does it matter? Maybe for you, being lazy is cool. Now, no one says that being lazy is cool. But I mean that even when you tell yourself that being lazy is not cool, it's still cool for you. Why is that? Because your life has no purpose, it has no meaning. You're not doing anything important with your life. There's no larger mission to your life. So honestly, the reason that you're lazy is because you can be. What else are you doing? You're trying to come up with like fake productivity. You're trying to be productive and efficient and go out there and, work that job or do this thing here or do whatever there. You're trying to do all this stuff just to keep busy. Just because someone told you to do it. Just because you have a social obligation or whatever. In that case, if you have laziness problems, well, that's because you're using extrinsic motivation, not intrinsic motivation. So that's one distinction you got to understand here. Extrinsic, intrinsic. Extrinsic means you're being motivated from the outside in. That's like when you have a kid who wants to eat some candy and his parents are telling him, no, you're going to eat vegetables. And then they give him some sort of reward. They'll say, if you eat your vegetables, then we'll give you $10. That's called extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation is when it comes from the inside out. So that's like if the kid would say, you know what, I want to eat healthy stuff, so I'm not going to eat the candy, I just want to eat healthy stuff. And that can happen too. It's rarer, it's harder to find people who are intrinsically motivated. You know what though? Those are the people that are the most successful. Those are the self-actualized people. And then one of the ways you get this way is you have a purpose to your life. You develop it, you cultivate it. This is not something you were born with, you cultivate it. And I talk about that in other videos. Another distinction you should understand is that between positive and negative motivation. Some people think that they can motivate themselves through life to accomplish great things through negative motivation. What is negative motivation? By the way, I have videos on that too. Here I'm just going to give you the quick summary version. Negative motivation means that you're telling yourself all the bad, painful stuff that's going to happen to you if you don't do something. That's like you got to go study for a test in a class that you have no interest in. Maybe you're studying math. You have no interest in math. You got to go ace the math test in order to get into law school or something, which is what you're really passionate about. So now you're taking math. You don't care about math. You got to ace it though. And you got to go out there and study. You don't want to study, so you're going to just slack it off. And the negative motivation there is that, well, if I fail, I'm going to get an F. That's going to look bad on my transcript. Negative motivation. Not a good way to go. Few people in life have accomplished amazing things through negative motivation. What works much better, the really successful people, they're positively motivated. That means that there's something that they're constructively working towards. And in their mind, they're visualizing all the good, all the pleasure that will come from that. So, same situation, let's say you're taking this math test. Except here, you're really curious and interested in math. See, very different. And you want to ace this test because you just want to show that you're good at math, which you're studying anyways. Very different, right? Very different kind of motivation. A lot of really successful people, actually what happens to them, and they come to me for coaching on this, is that they got a good career, good job, but then what happens is that they actually got to where they got to through negative motivation. It's interesting how it's not like if you're negatively motivated, you can't be successful. I mean, there's plenty of negatively motivated, successful people out there. But what happens is that they max out. They hit a plateau. Once they get a relatively comfortable level of living, they're comfortable. All of a sudden, there's no more negative motivation. The negative motivation robs you of itself. That's kind of the problem with it. It produces a yo-yo effect. Because if all you're doing is you're moving in life to move away from pain and discomfort, as soon as you find a comfortable spot, you're going to stay there. That's it. You're done. There's no more motivation for you. If you want to go really far in life, you need positive motivation. Positive motivation, it never wanes. For example, one of my motivations is to get smarter about life. to understand life better. Now, what is that? Is that positive or negative? That's positive, right? I'm not doing personal development and I'm not trying to understand life so that I can avoid all the pain in my life. That's not why I do it. I do it because it's fascinating to me and because it's just interesting and because I see all the awesome ramifications that come from that. I enjoy the learning process. So from that, my motivation never wanes, not long term, because I can keep learning about life for the rest of my life. It's never going to end. There's always something new to learn. Whereas if somebody was doing personal development just because, for example, oh, I need to lose 20 pounds before my wedding, which is 3 months from now. Leo, help me lose 20 pounds right before my wedding. I got to do it now. Give me some personal development mumbo jumbo so that I can quickly lose those 20 pounds for that wedding. See, that's negative motivation. As soon as those 20 pounds are lost, then it's like, well, screw this personal development stuff. I don't care about it anymore. I'm going to go off, do my own thing. And then what happens? You gain all that weight back. That's what produces yo-yo effects. So positive, negative, keep that in mind. Here's a basic checklist to see why you're lazy. Number one, life purpose. Do you have a life purpose? Do you have a compelling vision of what you create with your life, what you want to create? Very, very long term. I'm talking 20, 30 years down the road. Do you have that? Are you aligned with it? Are you working towards it on a weekly basis? If not, huge problem. You're going to have lots of laziness problems because you're not driven by anything. It's like you're a car with no engine inside. You need someone to tow you, basically. And that's what it is that you're being towed through life. And then if there's no one towing you, you're stuck. The second point, your top 10 values. You got to identify what your top 10 values are, and then you got to see, is your life aligned with those values? Are you actually acting towards it? If you're not, if the stuff you're doing with your life isn't aligned with your values, for example, if your job isn't honoring your top values, well, yeah, you're going to be lazy there. You're going to have a lot of long-term laziness problems. Third point on this checklist, ask yourself, where are you in the cycle? Do you know that life works in cycles? And I don't mean here the circle of life. That's a different thing. That's when you're dead. I mean, life works in cycles. As you're going through life, there's this natural ebb and flow, up and down cadence like this to your life. And it lasts, one of these cycles can last for 2, 3, or 5 years. So these are pretty long-term cycles. How does one of these cycles work? Well, let's say you're starting a new project. When you start a new project, you're kind of at the bottom of the cycle. You start some sort of new project or new endeavor or whatever, new chapter in your life, and then you start moving towards it. It's exciting, you're working on it, and you're going up in the cycle. Then you really hit your stride, you're reaching towards the top of the cycle. Then you're really at your peak, you're really killing it at your job, whatever you've been trying to do, it's really clicking, everything's working, you're at the very top of the cycle. Then naturally, people expect well, I'll just stay at the top. No, that's not very natural. The way life works is that you have an ebb and flow. So even after you've peaked, you're not going to maintain that peak. There's going to be a turn downwards. The phase in the chapter is going to be coming to an end. The movie's coming to an end. There's going to be a climax, right? After the climax, things resolve. So that's what's happening here. It doesn't necessarily mean failure. Sometimes it is a failure. Sometimes it's a catastrophic failure. Maybe your business catastrophically fails. But most times it's not even that. It's just kind of a natural phasing out. Maybe you're just moving on to bigger and greater things, whatever. A new chapter in your life needs to start. So now you're going down in the cycle. And then inevitably you hit the rock bottom of that cycle. This might be something very serious, like something bad happened to you, some traumatic event. Now you're very depressed, you're suicidal, you're very doubtful. Or maybe you're just kind of feeling lost and lazy and you're in this rut. You don't know what the next thing is in your life. You don't know what the next chapter should be. You're confused, you're lost. You don't have a project to work on. Maybe you're unemployed. Maybe you don't have a business, this kind of stuff. That's you at the very bottom. And then from that, what happens is that through that process of contemplation and kind of wandering and looking and searching and rediscovery, you come up with the next chapter. And then from that next chapter, again, the cycle starts to go back up. So understanding this, you got to ask yourself, where are you in this cycle right now in your life? If you're lazy and you're at the top of the cycle, well, that's one scenario. If you're lazy and you're at the bottom of the cycle, that's another scenario. I mean, it's pretty natural to be lazy at the bottom of the cycle. And sometimes you have to let yourself be that way. Because maybe you've just completed a really big project, or you just sold a business of yours, or whatever, Yeah, now it's natural to be a little bit lazy. Maybe you should take some time off, think things through. If you're at the top of the cycle, laziness shouldn't really be a problem for you because you're going full stride. But sometimes, you might have a day or two of laziness here or there. And so that's okay. Notice where you are in your cycle. The next checkpoint on this list is, when was the last time you had a vacation? How many months has it been? If it's been over 6 months, then that might be the problem right there. I find in myself, I start to become lazy after I've worked really hard for a long time. And I don't even acknowledge to myself how hard I've worked. So if you're having laziness issues when you're at the top of the cycle, maybe it's because you've been working so goddamn hard to reach the top, and now you're at the top, you just need a little bit of a break. You need to recharge those batteries, take your mind off the work you've been doing or whatever. And then you won't have these laziness problems anymore. So check in with that too. So that's the basic checklist, but I have a little bit more to say. So maybe you're still lazy after all of this. Maybe you pass all these points and you're lazy. So if you don't have a life purpose, expect yourself to be lazy a lot. If you're not aligned with your top values, expect yourself to be lazy a lot. If you're not taking vacations and resting properly, expect yourself to be lazy. If you are not conscious of this cycle, expect yourself to be worrying about your laziness and not understanding it in its proper context. So that's the reason I explain that stuff. If you're still having laziness issues, habits are really key. You need to develop successful habits. And I don't really want to cover the process of making habits in this video, just be a little bit of a tangent. I'll cover that in other videos, and I have good videos about how to break bad habits and how to start good habits. The only thing I'll tell you here is that you probably need more success habits in your life, and you want to build them up slowly. So if you're lazy right now, don't expect to just go and jump out of the bed and go to the gym, and you haven't been to the gym in a long time. It won't work that way. You got to baby step that and build that momentum up. Build that habit up over the course of the next month or two, and then it'll be okay. So let's say, for example, that you want to be an aspiring writer, and in your mind you're telling yourself, well, I got to write this novel, or I got to write this screenplay. But I've been so lazy, I've been slacking off the last 2 weeks, and I keep pushing it off. I've been pushing it off for a whole year now. You're lazy. Well, in this case, actually, there's a procrastination issue there, which I have a video on. I'll link it below, so check that out. But also, beyond the procrastination, you need to build a writing habit. See, what you're probably telling in your mind is well, I got to sit down and write this whole book. Or I got to sit down and write the first chapter. Or I got to sit down and do 8 hours of writing for the whole day. No, that's not how a good writer starts. A good writer, if he hasn't written yet, he'll start slow, right? Baby step that stuff. So maybe today you just spend 1 hour. If 1 hour is too much, spend 10 minutes. Baby step it. That's how you have to do it sometimes, especially when you're working really hard, when you're doing something ambitious. You gotta look into the future and say to yourself, well, right now I'll start slow, and that's okay, because the ramp up will happen pretty fast. It's okay if you spend the next month just ramping up slowly, just to get to, let's say, 5 hours of writing a day. That's a lot of writing. If you can consistently do 5 hours of writing per day, damn, you'll write anything you want really fast. So the key is to get you there, right? You just don't jump there in one go. And the final point that I want to really make here is, how do you break out of laziness right now, right in the moment? So the habit stuff, that's more long term, but what if right now I was sitting on my couch today and I didn't want to go and shoot these videos. I was really lazy. In fact, in my mind, I almost said oh man, it's just not going to work. I'm not going to do it today. I'll put it off to next week or something like that. I honestly didn't feel like I would come up here. But here I am standing in front of you shooting this video, so what happened? I want to read you a quote from William James. I was thinking of this quote before I got off my couch. And it goes like this: you can act your way into right thinking, but you can't think your way into right action. What does this mean? There's something very truthful about this quote, very profound. And it says basically that if you're sitting there and you're trying to think your way into going out there and doing something big, it's not going to happen. And that's what I was trying to do on that couch. I was trying to sit there and come up with a way. Okay, what kind of technique do I know? What kind of psychological trick can I pull out of my bags of tricks so that I can get up here and shoot my video? And in fact, I was thinking to myself, I was starting to guilt myself, and I was starting to say stuff like, well, if I don't shoot my video, what are people going to think of me when I'm shooting a video about laziness and I'm being lazy myself? What gives me the qualifications to talk about it? And the fact is that I am lazy. There are times in my life when I'm very lazy. So let's be real here. I'm not standing up here and saying like I'm never lazy. It's just that it happened today that I was able to motivate myself. And the reason was that I stopped thinking about it and I started acting. Thinking versus acting, right? When you're really stuck, just go through the motions. Just go through the motions. That's it. That's the best way to get yourself mobilized in the moment. So if you got to get your ass off the couch to the gym, literally lift your ass off the couch. Step 1. Step 2, walk over to the closet. Step 3, put on your shoes. Step 4, put on your jacket or whatever you need. Step 5, pick up the keys to your car. Step 6, walk out the front door. Step 7, walk into the car. Step 8, turn on the music to make yourself feel a little bit better when you're in your car. Take your mind off of it. Don't overthink this stuff. This stuff is simple. Personal development is simple too. People overthink it, and sometimes I don't think that I'm helping with releasing all these videos, because honestly, these videos can lead to like a big circle jerk effect, where all you do is you sit there and you do this mental masturbation, all these cool, interesting concepts and ideas, but then nothing happens because you just don't take any action. You can't act. Remember that the first 3 letters of the word actualized is act. Act, action, taking action. Action is a thing that determines the winners from the losers in life, the successful people from the unsuccessful, the self-actualized from the unself-actualized. It's action. And sometimes you just got to say to yourself, just fucking do it. Stop thinking about it, just fucking do it. Just fucking do it. Whatever it is that you're being lazy on right now, stop looking for a trick, just go fucking do it. It's not as hard as you think it is. It's not as painful, it's not as bad. Your mind is exaggerating that stuff. Just get yourself into action and put your mind on something else while you're doing it. Soon what you'll find is you'll be standing here speaking to the camera. You'll be enjoying yourself. You'll be feeling pretty nice. You'll be wondering, man, how come I was so lazy just a couple hours ago? I don't even know. That was like a different person. Now I'm standing here, I'm not lazy at all. I feel great. In fact, this is my second video. I already shot the first one, it's the second one. I really didn't feel like I was going to do it, but you know what? Sometimes it doesn't matter what you feel like. Sometimes you just move your legs, you move your ass, you move your mouth, and stuff happens. It's pretty cool. Also, another trick is that don't build it up in your mind like you have to do it perfectly. Sometimes just tell yourself, you know what? I'm just going to do a half-assed job today. I'm going to go to the gym and just do a half-assed job. Instead of staying at home from work, I'm going to go to work. But I'll just do a half-assed job at work. Instead of writing this stellar, awesome chapter for my novel, I'm going to write a half-assed chapter for my novel. That's good because it takes the pressure off you. It gets you mobilized, and once you're mobilized, it allows you to build up the momentum you need to then actually kick some ass that day. Another tip that I like is that sometimes when I'm feeling like it's really hard for me to mobilize to do work, just slow down. Slow your life down. Sometimes we try to speed things up so that we get more done. But ironically, what happens is that we're moving. There's so much action going on, but this action, it's got no traction to it. So it's just like stuff flying in the air, but nothing really important is getting done. Sometimes you gotta slow yourself down, bring yourself back to your own original principles and values. That actually helped me today too, is that what I did is I read a couple of blogs from some people that I follow, some quality blogs. So I read that and that started getting me thinking, started my mind churning, because I wasn't really in the mood to think and come up with new insights, new ideas. I wasn't come up with this stuff. But as I started reading this blog, I started reading this analysis, started getting my mind to be doing analysis. My mind has to be in an analytical mode when I'm shooting these videos. So that's what's happening right now. I've kind of built up a little bit of that momentum. And that's because I kind of allowed myself to slow down. Earlier in the day, I just said, you know what, I'm going to take it easy today. And if I read a book, for example, if I picked up a book from the bookshelf and I read that, that would have helped me too. Because like I'm slowing down, I'm really focusing on the stuff that I'm trying to do with my career, with my business, which is, delivering good insights to you guys. So when I focus on that, that tends to reground me. And finally, just acknowledge that sometimes you're going to fail. I mean, honestly, I'm standing here in front of you, but it could have been probably I'd say a 50-50 chance that I wouldn't have done this video today, just because I was pretty lazy today. And you know what? That's okay. In the past, I would have really guilted myself for it, and I was guilting myself a little bit today. But ultimately, you got to say to yourself, you're not perfect, and sometimes you're allowed to be lazy. And in fact, it's when you try to be perfect and when you try to be super productive all the time that actually laziness tends to come up. And so you get laziness because your overproductivity backfires on you. Now, we've covered a lot of ground here in this video. This last point about overproductivity backfiring, you got to ask yourself, is that me? Am I an overachiever type? If you're an overachiever type, that's a perfect description of how you work. But if you're a lazy slacker type, that's not you. If you're a lazy slacker type, what you need to do is go back to the beginning of the video and really look at life purpose. You don't got enough purpose in your life. You don't got enough positive motivation. So you got to work there. And I got some videos that I'll link down below to help you figure that out. All right, this is Leo. I'm signing off. Go ahead, post me your comments down below. Please like this video, clicking the like button. Share it on Facebook. Share it with your friends so that I can release more free content if this video and other videos are popular. And finally, come and sign up to my newsletter, free newsletter, Actualized.org. I release new videos, exclusive content coming soon for lots of my subscribers. I'm really passionate about covering the mindsets and strategies and tactics that you need to master your life and to self-actualize, and all that this encompasses, relationships and business and career and success in other areas, your inner game, your moods, your emotions, overcoming depression. So these kinds of things, I love talking about this stuff because to me, that's what creates a fulfilling life. I have a lot of advanced concepts that I want to share with you in the future. So sign up, stick around, it's free, and lots of stuff to come real soon.